Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Love Is Season 1, Episode 5, which was titled Acceptance, and I am finally caught up after this video, so I am now on track with Love Is. So the show opens with a reenactment. On last week's episode, Yasir got upset and he stormed out. Well, when the show opens up and they were like replaying that scene, and I was like, now wait a minute, I don't remember all this happening. And then all of a sudden, Yasir walks out and then he's like stumping down the street because we know he ain't got no car. And so Nuri runs after him and she jumps in his arms and they start kissing and carrying on. And I'm like, what in the world? And then all of a sudden they start undressing, like stripping each other. So then I know that this was not a real scene. And of course it was not. Nuri did end up going on the ski trip with Keith, and Yasir went on back home to Ruby. So Nuri, she breaks Yasir's heart by going on the ski trip with Keith, and Keith wants to know if Yasir is his competition, and Nuri tries to play it cool, and she says that Yasir isn't his competition and that there's no rings on her fingers, so she can do whatever she wants to and date whoever she wants to. And I'm like, Nuri trying to be player from the Himalaya, okay? So she's fooling no one, but tries to fit in with Keith's friends. And so it's like snoring really hard when they get to this cabin. And I think it was like 4 other couples there, maybe 5 other couples. And then Nuri and Keith, they have like what they call the honeymoon suite. So they go and get settled in their room, and Keith gives her this sweater, or was it a sweater? Yeah, I think it was like a pullover sweater or a zip-up sweater-like jacket, and he had Keith's boo on the back of it. And then on the back of his, he had some other little crazy saying. But anyway, she tells him to go on out and she'll be out in a second. So they're all out, having a good time, drinking. Everybody's coupled up and everything. So here comes Nuri. So Nuri goes and sits over like at a table off away from everybody else. And everybody looking at her like, well, then you going to sit by your man? So then, they encourage her to come and sit next to Keith. So she finally gets up to go sit next to him, and then Keith pull her down in his lap. And so Nuri is just so uncomfortable during the whole trip, and they're drinking hot toddies and they are eating some shrooms. And I had to remember it was the 90s. And so they just having a good time off the chain. Keith was trying to get her to eat one of the mushrooms, and she wouldn't do it. And then I have to stick a pin here because you guys know, if you've been following my recaps, I love to compare when these same scenes be happening in different shows. And so this was reminiscent of a scene that was in This Is Us that comes on NBC, where they were up at the cabin, and I think it was Randall that ended up getting the mushrooms and eating them and getting high and started having hallucinations. So after everybody retreats to their room, and I was happy everybody retreated to their rooms because I actually thought they were going to end up having an orgy, but I guess they couldn't do that because out of everybody that was there, Nuri refused to eat the mushroom. And then there was another girl who's a doctor who said she wasn't going to eat it, and she was basically telling them that the shrooms are grown in crap, like poop, like dookie that come out your booty. And so she was saying that there was no way she was going to put that in her mouth, and she was going to be there to resuscitate them when they get sick and pass out and need to go to the hospital. So then when Keith tried to get Nuri to eat her, she kind of like dropped it up there like this and dropped it on the floor. Then he picked it up off the floor and ate it anyway. So after everybody had done went to their rooms, and Keith, still trying to get Nuri to give him some, but she wasn't having it. So then all of a sudden he done got hot, he hallucinating, he losing his mind, so he strips down, ass butt naked, and Nuri is just like, what in the world have I gotten myself into? So she's trying to fight him off, and then you can hear the other couples, going, oh, oh, all with the sex language. And so Nuri is just like, how am I going to get out of this? And then Keith all of a sudden starts crying, and he's talking about how no matter how hard he tries, he's done everything right. He's, the perfect catch, but he still can't find love and can't get the girl that he wants. And Nuri was like, oh, I'm so sorry, but you'll find somebody, the right woman to come along. And then he breaks down and tells her that he is gay. Now, I was waiting because, we can't have no black show unless we got a gay person on the show. It's like a prerequisite right now. If you're going to bring something on TV, you got to incorporate some gay people up in there some way, somehow. So Keith is the obligatory gay person in Love Is. So Nuri tries to act like she's not shocked and surprised or turned off or whatever. She's like being that comforting friend, like it's okay, you'll find love eventually. And then she was like, she's not going to tell his secret to anybody. And I was just like, I just cannot believe that this is happening right now, because she is just being too nice and too kind about it. Because I'm thinking about you standing there with your clothes off. We're going to have an issue because I'm going to need you to put your clothes back on. But she wrapped them up in a blanket and everything. They get back to town and they're at work. And I think they were at a taping of the Marvin show. And so everybody's applauding and laughing, so how we have them laugh tracks in the background. I guess it actually be like the staff and the team from the show that are in the background that's laughing and stuff. So they were doing all of that. And then when it was over with, she goes over to Keith, and Keith was acting like wasn't that going on. Like he hadn't stripped in front of Nuri. He hadn't confessed to Nuri that he was gay. Like none of that had happened. And so then Nuri was like, okay, you just go act like nothing happened. And he was like, well, what are you talking about? And then she said, well, you told me you were gay when we were up at the cabin. And then he was like, oh, no, Nuri, I'm not gay. I was just giving you an out to make you feel comfortable, because you didn't want to go along with everything that was going on. And so now Nuri looking all confused, like, okay, is he gay or is he not gay? So that was kind of interesting. So regardless of the cleanup on aisle 6, since the show is supposed to be about real romance between Mara and Celine, I am sure that people are going to be Googling the executive directors and the TV execs for when the show Martin was on. And if you missed that part, Keith is a TV exec who works for the show, and Nuri writes for the show called Marvin, which is a play on Martin, the 90s sitcom. And then I also got to let you guys know that somebody informed me that Mara Bracca did not write for Martin, that they were just using the Marvin kind of like twist on the show because that was a show that was very popular in the 90s, and that Mara Bracca actual first writing job was on the show Moesha, which might have been on around the same time. So anyway, after they return from the ski trip, Nuri is pressed and she's checking her messages to see if Yusir finally called her. And she even calls Ruby's house again, even after Angela was like begging her, please stop being so disrespectful towards that woman, because she done already told you in that Jamaican accent, don't call him no more. But Nuri was like, she'll do whatever she want to do because that's the only way she can get in touch with Yasir, and she'll call that house anytime she wants to. So then, to prove a point to Angela, she goes ahead and answers, she goes ahead and calls the house, and Angela was just like, I cannot believe you being so rude and disrespectful. So Yasir is home and he's laying on the couch, feeling sorry for himself. And then he finally gets up to go answer the phone. But as he's answering the phone, Nuri is hanging up the phone. So Angela tells her that if God wants them to be together and to finally talk, it'll happen another way, but it won't come from her, being rude and going to the lady house and calling the lady house looking for this man while he's still living there. So all this stalking that they're doing to each other is just weird to me. But what type of woman shows up at another woman's house looking for her man, and even after verifying that it's the woman's house, continues to call there looking for him? Yet viewers seem to think that this is okay and continue to root for Nuri. And let's not forget that Yasir and Sean went into Nuri's house on the last episode while she was at work without her knowledge, which I said then was kind of creepy. So Nuri is starting to get on Angela's nerves. It's becoming apparent. So when they are trying to sneak out, Norman catches Nuri to discuss his concerns that, when they did the live taping, everybody was happy with it. Nobody had any complaints, wanted any rewrites or anything. So he wants to sit down and go through everything once again and make sure that there's nothing that they can tighten up, because he thinks that they are going to try and come back and point out mistakes because they want to cancel the show, because our black shows can't stay on as long as Friends stayed on. So while they're talking, Angela sneaks out and she's down in her car waiting. I don't know what she was waiting on, but somehow Nuri says she has to go to the bathroom or something, and she runs downstairs and catches Angela. And so she tells Angela to ride by the cafe and see if Yasir is there, and if he's there, to text 1, and if he's not there, to text 2. So then she goes back upstairs to finish meeting with Norman, and then the text comes through, and it's 1 saying that he is at the cafe. So at this point, Norman is talking about divorcing his 4th wife and working on the 5th wife. And so Nuri got to figure out how she gonna get out of the situation so she can get over to that cafe before Yasir leaves. And so she distracts Norman by calling her mom and getting her mom on the phone to do a psychic, or not a psychic, but an astrology reading for Norman. So the two of them, they're all engaged in their conversation, and then Nuri grabs her stuff and sneaks out. So like I say, she's continuing her stalkerish behavior and rolls out to catch him at the cafe. So Yasir is still annoyed with her for not trusting him and not ditching Keith, and telling Keith that she couldn't go on the ski trip. So this fool is in some kind of denial with his expectations from a woman he just met. Like they met a year ago, but they didn't see each other again, so it's only been like 3 or 4 days. So she's annoyed with him for questioning her character, and they are arguing, making a scene, and people looking at him like, what's wrong with y'all? Nuri gets low and dirty, yelling at the man, talking about you're unemployed and the type of brother that walks out when things aren't going his way. And Yasir is like, yeah, that's me, that's who I am. And all I could think was that if that was in today's time, they would be a viral video on social media, because somebody would have been recording and posting it on Facebook and everything else, and then Nuri would probably lose her job. So finally, Yasir does the ultimate pimp move and walks out on Nuri, leaving her in a frantic, I have to apologize, prove my love to him to win him back phase. So he gone, and she's sitting there like, oh my God, ladies, y'all know how we do. So Nuri gets home and coincidentally finds the note that Yasir wrote when he and Sean did their breaking and entering. So the note was beneath some mail that I thought Yasir had brought into the house, but she doesn't seem to think to herself, like, how did that mail get in here? Because when she is standing at the door, like trying to figure out what she's going to do, she goes into the mail drop and pulls the mail out that was in there. So I don't know if she had put the mail there, but I'm really thinking it was Yasir that put the mail up there. So as she's combining the mail that she took out the slot and the mail that was up on the mantle, then she's pulling them off and combining them in her hand when the note that he wrote her falls on the floor. So she picks up the note and reads it, and that's what he was saying, please don't go on the ski trip. And so call it divine intervention. Like maybe that's what Angela was talking about, her finding the note and realizing that he really didn't want her to go on the trip. And so she sees it as a sign from God, and Angela told her, it would come if it was meant to be. So I call it just wishing for something really, really hard that you force the universe to comply. So anyway, Nuri, being the narcissistic person that she is, goes looking for Yasir. First, she does a drive-by of the cafe, then gives herself permission to go running back to Ruby's front door. So she's about to knock on the door when more than likely she had a vision of Ruby coming outside, kicking her behind for coming to her house. So she does an about face, and then she's headed for the stairs when Ruby comes to the door and was like, can I help you? And then she goes, oh, no, I'm at the wrong place. So let's be real. Ruby's intuition tells her all she needs to know. So she asks Nuri, who are you looking for? But Nuri says that she's lost and rushes down the stairs. So she returns home only to find Yasir waiting for her. How sweet. He was sitting on the steps and like he had nowhere else to go. So Yasir realizes that he has Nuri where he wants her, desperate and out running to and fro looking for him late at night. So they engage in a steamy makeout session and almost make it to her bedroom until Yasir reminds her of her rule. And she was like, what rule? And then he was like, the only man that you would have sex with in your new house would be your husband. And so forget that her and Will have cuddled, hunched, many nights, and Will admitted to jacking off while she was asleep in the bed next to her. And then of course is Ramadan over with? I thought it lasted like 7 days or something, so shouldn't they still be in the midst of Ramadan? But it doesn't matter. So they make a compromise, y'all, and they take it to the floor of her lanai, where mysteriously and magically we got a really nice rug. We got candles lining the rug. We got some pillows and everything. And then we got Janet Jackson playing in the background. Anytime, any place. And child, they have mad, passionate, sweet love on the floor. And then all of a sudden it started raining, and we got the rain all over Yasir's back. Go ahead on, Yasir, and turn Miss Nuri out, okay? And you know, and then so as they're about to climax, he declared, I think they both declared that they love each other. Like, I love you. And I'm like, oh, Yasir, you real good. You better than I thought you were. And now that he's hit it in less than a week and they have professed their undying love, where does the show go from here? Do we get to see how Nuri provides a path for Yasir when she tires of him living off of her as he does Ruby? Will Yasir honor his commitment to have dinner with Ruby's parents when they come? Will Nuri be okay with that? Also, it seems like there will be conflict between Ruby and Angela, so maybe the show will take a turn, because at this point, since we already know how the story ends, there has to be other tension and conflicts to keep us turned in. So last, older Nuri and Yasir were okay in the first few episodes, but now it's becoming like an unnecessary filler. So then this episode really showed that they really are not needed to bridge the gaps, that we just can have a continuous flow of the show for the full hour from beginning to end. So guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about the show. Are you watching? Are you getting into the show? Are you liking it more, liking it less? Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you later. Bye-bye.